Hello, and welcome to Tip of the Tongue, our new series of monthly advice videos for voice actors, producers, and anyone else who wants to make projects on the internet. Everyone's got that passion project they've wanted to make since as far back as they can remember. This is where we help you learn how to make it happen. I'm Jello.
And I'm William.
I'm a graphic designer, illustrator, voice actor, writer, director, and producer.
And I do a lot less. Today's topic will be on auditioning. This is going to be a mostly voice acting centric episode, so it's mostly for, well, voice actors. But the skills we'll be talking about are useful to know as an animator, a writer, a game developer, and anyone who really wants to make things. If you're ever going to need a voice actor in your project in the future, this is the video for you. And you may be looking at the length of this video thinking, why is it so long? Yeah, that's because there's a lot to talk about. And if you didn't know that, you better pay attention.
In this episode, we'll cover how to properly send audition emails, knowing what auditions to check out or avoid entirely. We'll talk about how I, as a casting director, go through auditions and how I pick who I pick for parts, a bunch of other stuff. And I'll try and put some timestamps on the video about here with what we're doing and when it will happen in the video. So a question I get a lot is, where do I even start? And the internet is a wonderful place because anyone can post auditions anywhere. And that's great, and it's also awful because a lot of directors have no idea what they're doing, sometimes because they're not directors. So there's plenty of places you can look at to browse through auditions. There's Casting Call Club, Behind the Voice Actors Voice Acting Alliance, which may or may not exist. It might be a phishing site now. Actors Access, Lemisoft forums, lots of small potatoes places. You can really go to any of these, and it's hard to fully recommend places like that, right? Because there's a lot of fall through projects and there's a lot of unprofessionalism in those places. So you really want to watch out for that. We'll talk about how to avoid projects like that when you're picking out what to audition for.
But I mean, on the positive side, it really helps you get ready for disappointment.
Yes, because when you're auditioning and just as an actor in general, there's a lot of disappointment to be had. Obviously, there's things like not getting roles, but there's also things like, hey, I got cast in a role and that project fell through for whatever reason. The director left, the other actors left. I just never got an email back, even though I was told I got the part. You get the idea, and you get used to that. And it's good practice. But at the end of the day, when all is said and done, when people ask, where do I go to get auditions? The best answer is the same as in real life, which is actual networking. It's actually connecting with people. It's actually talking to people. If you see a content creator who makes things you like, check if they have open auditions, check if they have any ongoing projects, message them, make friends with other amateur voice actors, because more often than anything, even now, I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now, even now, almost every role I actually get comes from like a friend at 3 a.m. messaging me over Facebook, like, hey, I need someone to do this line within 5 hours. Can you do it?
Yeah, a vast majority of the voice work that I've gotten has been along the same lines. And I actually met one of the voice actors that I use for a couple of radio commercials. And I asked him, like, so just, you've been in this business for a long time. How do you nurture your networks and your connections with people? And he said, I have an Excel folder or an Excel file where he like writes down who the person is, where he met them, what project it was for the first time in their most recent project, how to call them, all that jazz. And then he'll even put down like how the wife is doing, what's the name of their dog, and like that way he just like anytime he answers the phone and like maybe he hasn't talked to them in a long time, he's just like, oh yeah, how's Samantha? How's Samantha? And they're like, oh, Samantha's great.
He just says, looking at a message drawn on his wrist.
Yeah, like essentially, yes, that's essentially what he did. But I mean, the guy had work left and right because he nurtured his relationship super well. And like, so, I mean, that's a big thing, is just maintain those relationships. It's so important.
Yeah, never burn bridges unless you have to, even though it's honestly very easy on the internet. And that's a big thing that people, that off-puts a lot of people, that they have to network even online. Like, isn't that sort of the draw of online voice acting, that I don't need to go out? I don't need to be my own agent. I don't need to meet with directors and stuff. You still do.
Yeah.
If you really, really want this to be like a big thing, not just I do it once a year hobby, that's what you have to do, and which is unfortunate, but it's really nice because honestly, so like the first thing I ever directed, Will was one of the first people I ever cast, and we've been friends for like 4 years. Yay. And I still hang out with them like almost every night, and that will not happen every time. I've held a bunch of auditions. I've worked with hundreds of voice actors. I hang out with maybe 25 of them. and that's just how things go. But like, always be pleasant, always be professional, and you will build a network over time. And that is where you find roles.
It is honestly pretty surprising how our group works because, and I'm glad it works the way it does. And honestly, anyone that does get involved with other groups should encourage this sort of situation. But we all got together and we did all our recordings. The video was produced, but instead of everyone dispersing and doing their own thing, it was like, hey, you guys want to like read this manga together out loud? Yeah, sure. And like it builds friendship and it builds your network and your relationships.
There is like nobody better to practice with than people you've already met.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also really fun because you can learn, just like, for example, just reading a script out loud together. You can also learn people's range and things like that. Like, for example, you've learned that I've got a couple voices that I don't get to particularly use very often, but that's now in your back pocket of like, oh, I need a horrible goblin. I got William.
So here's the thing. We're going to talk about this a little later, but it's coming up right now. So one of the reasons it's like, hey, where do I find the auditions? After a while, you won't need to look at auditions as much anymore.
Nope.
Because if you really have a big network of people, and if you work with people and impress them, if you do a good job, if you like get your lines in on time and you're friendly and you're a cool person, then people will go, hey, that's the girl who does the really good child voice, or that's the guy with the really good deep voice, and I have a character role for that, and they are gonna like, I don't need to audition people, I can send it right to them. And I audition things maybe twice a year. I have open auditions, but every other time I'm just privately scouting and casting people I already know or people I've heard in other projects.
Yeah, a vast majority of the time when it comes to like getting cast for things or even like doing commercials, I will normally just get an email or you will contact me or whoever and just say, hey, I really liked this thing you did. Would you mind auditioning for this? Or, hey, you have this part if you want it. Like, just, it's there if I want it.
Yeah, and that's an important thing. This I think should be the last point we make on networking for now, so we can actually talk about some auditioning.
Yes.
Instead of, oh, don't audition. This is way better. Because auditioning is important. Don't get us wrong. That's like a foundation. That's how you meet people.
Yes.
A lot of people are very like nervous if you email someone like, hey, I really like your stuff. It's very common to be like, hey, I'm gonna talk at you a little too much, or hey, I'm gonna like pretend to be aloof and like I don't care and come off as an asshole. You like just be honest, just be like, hey, I like your stuff. I'd love to work with you if you have things. I saw like a dub you did on Tumblr. It was really good. It's that easy. And the worst thing that can happen is that they go, ugh, and then they just throw away your audition. And like, are you really any worse off at that point? No. Let's talk about actually doing the audition. This is a big note for this episode. Acting and auditioning, they are two totally different skill sets. This video is about auditioning. If you are an actor, we are just going to assume that you're a great actor already. We'll do things on acting in the future. This is about auditioning. Yeah,
a lot of people, for some reason, I don't know if it's on purpose or they just don't realize it, your audition is the most important part because it's how you get the job, but even more importantly, it's your first impression. First impressions are extremely important. As Jello knows me as a person, I decide very quickly whether or not I like someone. And once they have failed that test,
Will hate someone immediately if they say, like, which is great because he's such a pleasant person, but he's just like, I don't like that jerk.
I am either 100% on one side or the other. Either I will love you to death or I'm not going to like you. And that sounds harsh, but you need to consider from the perspective of like a content creator, we don't have time. We just don't have time.
On the subject of first impressions, the first impression you have when you email your audition to someone is, did you follow the rules? Did you name your email correctly? Did you name it like my name, like Pinecone Destroyer underscore whatever audition for the character you're in? Did you the usual rules are, is it an MP3 or a WAV? Is it like whatever? Did you send it before the deadline? These are all very seemingly easy things. You have no idea how often people mess these up.
It's pretty impressive, frankly.
Here's the sad true fact. If you mess up this stage, if you mess up the thing, every audition will have this, by the way. It's like big at the top, usually in bold, bullet points, center text. Here are the rules. Like record in mono, do this, do that, do that. If you don't know how to do any of those things, look it up on Google. That's the easy. Google's amazing. It will give you an answer very quickly. If you do not follow the rules of that audition, if you send in an A file instead of an MP3 file, every casting director I know, including myself, will immediately throw your audition away.
Yep.
They will not look at it because you don't deserve to. You've shown it's not about like, oh man, because you sent me a wave instead of an MP3, I just can't use your thing in this project. It's not compatible. That's not what it's for. It's a simple test to see if people can follow the rules. And if you can't follow the rules, you're going to be a problem because that's the easiest thing. And if someone can't send you an MP3 file, because it is amazing what people will send you. I've been sent the wrong types of like audio files. I've been sent files that don't work on my computer. I've been sent videos. I've been sent links to video responses of people reading the wrong lines for auditions and like all of that. No, none of that. Do none of that.
Yeah, it is just honestly, it's so impressive.
All those rules are very important. They're all individual. Look up what they mean if you don't know, which you might not. The other big thing is every audition will have a deadline, or they should. Sometimes they don't. That's a little fishy immediately. So that's kind of a red flag if an audition doesn't have a deadline or it's been set back multiple times. Maybe don't go for that one. So the deadline obviously is the last point that any auditions will be accepted. So it's usually like midnight in some time zone. Be careful. People don't notice the time zone thing a lot. Like I've gotten a lot of auditions at like 2 a.m. from people on the Pacific Coast. If it says midnight Central Time, it's midnight Central Time. Be careful. So the deadline is really important when it comes to auditioning. And it's not just because it's like, oh man, now I can't audition. When you audition in the audition process is pretty important in itself. I always recommend sending your audition in as early as possible once you've seen the audition, whenever that is, even if you've got like only 2 days left as opposed to 2 weeks. This way you get to implant yourself as an option in the director's mind way earlier, because I can speak to this as a casting director. If I get a pretty good audition early on, and I listen to that a few times, because I do go back every couple days and listen to all the auditions I have. If there's like one that I kind of like a 7 out of 10 audition, the longer that's with me and the longer I hear it, the more I'll think, oh, you know, I can more and more hear this. Like when I read this line, this is the voice I hear. They get an advantage. So the earlier you put in your audition, the better. That's at least how it works for me. And it's maybe not the best practice, but that's honestly what happens with some casting directors.
I mean, one of the other big things to remember with auditioning early is if you get it in early, you don't have to worry about it anymore. It's in and you just can let it roll. And the other big thing to remember is that you don't know if you're going to get sick in the next couple of days. There might be some, maybe, God forbid it happens, but you might have a family emergency and you have to leave and you can't record it.
I've had auditions where like I immediately went to a recording session, just came out of strep throat, turned out my mic cord was broken. I had no idea. That kind of thing can always happen. Mm-hmm. It's better to know sooner than later. And if you get your audition in early, people remember that. Like they do. I don't do this on purpose. It's usually because someone who's really dedicated auditions early. Almost every project I've ever done, one of the people cast is within the first 24 hours. No, like I won't guarantee anything, but that's pretty common. So don't wait until the last minute. Everybody waits until the last minute. If you're a director setting up an audition, keep in mind you gotta push it every single time you got an opportunity. Like, hey, I'm still doing this on social media. But voice actors are lazy people. We are deadline oriented.
Yep.
And some of us are past the deadline oriented. You should fire those people. But your big boosts in like when people are auditioning is right after you put it up, you'll get a big surge, and like the day that the deadline is.
Yep.
So like don't bother extending it that long. Don't make it a 2 or 3 or 5 week deadline thing. It'll be about the same amount of people auditioning. And that's another reason not to send your audition late. Everyone sends their audition late, and boy, oh boy, the director has had all this time to listen to these auditions. He or she knows like, hey, I see what I've got here. I know what I might have to work with. That might be all I get. So I'm deciding now who I can choose. And by the time you audition, and so do 50 other people on the last day, they are no longer going, hey, are you good? Like, are you a good fit for the part? It becomes, hey, are you better than this person I already think is good enough for the part? And that is a way harder battle.
Yeah. I mean, that's why anytime I see an audition, even if it's like, oh, well, the audition deadline is 3 weeks out, I do that immediately. I find a time where I can get it done and I just send out. Like it just makes things a lot easier on your side. And believe it or not, as Jello said, it makes the director's life a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, it's really nice. Not to mention that just as this is a quick note, I know some directors, I hate this practice, but they do it. There are some directors, there's some producers who will set a deadline and they will close it before that deadline when they think they've got a good fit, or just because, and not to name any projects, but I think that's a terrible example to set, but realize there are people who do things like that. So get it in early, get it in early, get it in early. We mentioned maybe you're sick. If you really, really want a role, like it's like, oh, this is like, I love voicing crazy guys and this is a crazy guy, but I've got this throat thing and it won't go away. Audition for it. Like what's going to happen? Either you don't audition for it while you're sick and you don't get it, or you audition for it while sick and maybe you do. Those are the only two things that can happen. One
of the other really good things about sending it out, even though you are sick, is that with that email that you send with your audio attached, I don't think it's a bad idea to say, hey, I saw the deadline coming up and I wanted to voice this even though I'm sick. If by chance you like what you hear or you think there's potential, let me know and I would love to give you a retake when my voice is better.
That's actually kind of a tricky thing to bring up. I've heard more differing views on that in stage acting, where it's like you shouldn't say you're sick.
Oh, really?
Because unless it's like really bad, like you're like there's like phlegm in your throat, be like, hey, I'm sick. But if you're just like a little sick, don't mention it. They don't know. They don't need to know. They don't need to know your handicap. They don't need to go in going, oh, this guy's gonna be worse. Just like don't say it.
Okay, interesting.
So next up there's a few. We're gonna go very quickly over a couple like easy faux pas with things you can keep in your audition. You need to keep your audition clean, and that doesn't mean like not swear. I mean like audio wise, you need to keep it clean. There's a couple really big cardinal sins. If any of these are in a thing, if any of these are in your audition, I will throw it out immediately. I won't listen to it because it's not good enough.
It is incredible, some of the auditions that I will see personally or that you will share with me, and we'll look at them and just go, someone looked at this audio and said, yeah, this is fine. And the three things that you can easily prevent these are 100% on whoever's recording.
It does not matter what your mic level is. All of these you can do something about. So the three big things are popping consonants, peaking, and background noise. So popping consonants, these are your hard consonants, your B's, P's, F's, G's. The easiest way, like people get pop filters. You don't need a pop filter. You don't need one. I have one right now. It's basically useless. I always record with my face angled away from the microphone. Right now I'm looking off at maybe like the 12 o'clock of my face is my computer. The 10 o'clock is my mic. That's how I'm doing this. So we've got a test sentence here just so you can hear what this sounds like. Our test sentence is, hey man, do you say soda or pop? I need to know. So if I say it like that, it sounds fine. But if I turn my head, hey man, do you say soda or pop? I need to know. Those P's just popped. You can hear my spit hitting the microphone through the pop filter. It doesn't matter. Just turn your head away. It sounds exactly the same. It sounds better. It's a really, really easy fix. Doesn't matter what your mic is.
And then we've got peaking. This is when your microphone is way too sensitive and it just blows it out. It just sounds like absolute trash. Pretty much if you look at your audio and instead of having like fun little waves, you just have a flat box, you messed up.
You should never send in any of these. If you've got an audition with any of these things in it, delete it, but especially peaking. You can, like, good audio editors can fix consonants. They can fix background noise given the right circumstance. No one can fix peaking. Peaking is a ruined take. If any part of if you got a good take and there's a part where you get loud and that part looks like a rectangle,
you peaked.
Throw it away. It's useless. No one can use it. So basically it's if you're too loud and you're screaming into the mic higher than it can handle. So here is what a normal scream sounds like with properly adjusted gain. Hey man, do you say soda or pop? I need to know!
He needs to know.
And I'm gonna be nice and I'm gonna be quieter for this because that's really loud. This is what peaking sounds like when your gain is incorrect. Hey man, do you say soda or pop? I need to know! That sounds awful.
That was really great on my side. Let me tell you, I enjoyed that. Thank you.
I am so sorry.
It's for the people. I'll do it.
The easiest way to fix this is to learn how to use gain. Gain is basically how loud your microphone is allowed to be before, it peaks, basically. It's called peaking, by the way, because the peaks hit the edges of the track. So yeah, that's when the little mountains turn into plateaus or mesas or whatever, or rectangles. So the easiest way to fix that is, the best way is get an XLR mic with a gain knob so you can turn it up and down and easily adjust it as you need to, like I just did. Or you can do that to a lesser extent in things like Audacity, Audition, any like Logic Pro, anything has basic stuff. XLR boxes are the easiest way to do it though.
And then our last one is, I don't know why this happens all the time.
This is the most inexcusable of the three, in my opinion.
This is background noise. Background noise is air conditioners, fans, computer sounds, dogs, family, whatever it may be. Anything that is not your voice.
And when we say like dogs and family, you might think, oh, easy, I'll just go in a closet and then you can't hear that and I'll just be alone with my computer. No, we can hear your computer. Background noise, it doesn't have to be noise. Sometimes it's quote unquote silence.
Ooh, yeah.
To get rid of background noise, this is free. Anyone can do it. You have no excuse. Download Audacity. Look up how to remove background noise. It is the easiest thing in the world. Background noise is really bad on laptop mics, on blue snowballs, on whatever you've got. You have to be aware it happens, because it does. Hey man, do you say soda or pop? Hey man, do you say soda or pop?
Hey man, do you say soda or pop?
If you have background noise in your audition, bam, it's gone. I'm not listening to it because you are not at the level I'm looking for yet.
So those are the basic things that you can take care of on the side of like the actual recording process. Now we need to look at how are you organizing that audio? I mean, you've fully recorded all your takes. Oh, they sound good. They sound crisp. One thing that you want to avoid is just long stretches of silence. Now, it's good to have spaces in between your takes, just so like whoever is going to be looking at this can identify quickly where,
like, oh hey, those are the 3 takes I need to bounce between, and they're all like, there's nice silence between them, just like a half a second, maybe 1 second at most. You don't ever need more than that.
Yeah.
Really think about what the director or the casting person will be hearing. They're going to be looking back and forth between a bunch of audio. You don't want to make that longer for them. They will not like you. I will not like you. Another thing that is a problem when people do this, some professionals do this. I know people who work at Funimation that do this. I think this is a terrible practice. Is introducing yourself in your audition. No. That's what your email is for. You should not say anything. You should not say your name. It's not a demo reel. It's just an audition. That's all it should be. It should be a beautiful painting and your email should frame it, and that's it. No bells and whistles.
Yeah. Speaking of bells and whistles, let's say you're auditioning for a really cool big bad robot. Very cool, dude. Congratulations on this opportunity. You know what's a really great idea? Not putting an audio effect on it. Just don't, ever.
Oh my god, it's the worst. I have an open audition constantly. You can always send me demos. I'll always listen to them. Someone sent me, I shit you not, a 7-minute long take of them, quote them as Optimus Prime, and it sounded like a blender with like rocks being thrown in it, and it was that for 7 minutes, and they were like, hey, is that good enough, or like, did you have any critique? I'm like, well, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
You always want your audio to be as dry as possible, which means no background noise, no editing, just a lovely, pure thing that can be corrupted however the sound engineer needs to. They can put reverb on it. They can make it sound like you're in a cave. It's so hard if something already has reverb or already sounds like a robot. Like, they're the professional. That's not your job.
Yeah, no, it's not really hard. It's impossible. Like, the moment you screw with that audio and it's not the original, it is basically impossible to do anything with besides what you did. So don't do it. Just don't. The director will never request you to make an audio effect on it, so don't do it, because they've got someone in line to take care of that.
Or they should. If they don't, another red flag.
Yep.
So last note on making sure your lines are good. We mentioned looking at the audition guidelines and the rules. Do that one more time before you send it out, because I have screwed up. I have screwed up to the point I have needed to re-record entire auditions because I noticed I recorded in like the wrong format.
Yes.
And that sucks, but you know what? It's better to record twice and send an audition that they will actually enjoy as opposed to doing the other thing.
Yeah.
This is a small thing. Directors sometimes are unprofessional. Like, everyone can be an amateur on both ends of the screen. Sometimes in their audition thing, they will have typos in their dialogue. You know, it'll say like, I need to go to head to castle instead of the castle. Don't say head to castle. Like, everyone knows it's supposed to be the. Just have confidence in that. And also on that note, if you don't know how to pronounce something, if you have never seen a word before, if there's a name that doesn't have a pronunciation, email the director, look around if it's on a forum, look to see if there's anyone who's commented and asked that question already. That's really on the director to put that in there. Like, if you've got a dwarf named like pLasterbrain,
Hello, I'm pLasterbrain.
that should be on them to put that in there.
You should also tell the director to change that name.
Oh my god, yeah, never. Rule number 3 of voice acting: never audition for pLasterbrain.
Actually, no, do it, because you only have to say his name once when you introduce yourself, and everybody else has got to say it. So yeah, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh, and on that note, make sure you've read all the lines correctly.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's really important. I auditioned for something today, was looking back through my takes, realized I screwed up a line. The line was, I will need something to protect myself, and I read it as, I'm gonna need something to protect myself. And like, that's a really small thing. If you are neck and neck with someone if you are the last 2 people in the audition and you screwed up that line, that is more than enough for the director to go, well, they screwed up the line. They're not as good at reading. Boop, the other guy wins.
I know I've had that a couple times with reading for auditions, because
I do that all the time. I'm really bad at it.
Because like, maybe you're just like really into character or whatever, and like you just get tunnel vision while reading it. And you say something that like might sound more natural, but that's not what was requested.
Oftentimes in the actual booth, directors will allow you to say what's more natural. Like, if it's just like one word difference, usually they don't care that much. But in the auditions, it does matter. Really try and stick to what it says there. Another question I got on Twitter, which you can always shoot us questions, by the way, and we'll do our best to answer them at welcome to tweet. Someone asked me, what do you do if there's no director on hand and there's no line directions? That's really rough, because the director should always have like, here's a line and they're saying it sarcastically, or here's the context. That's very important. That's the type of thing you might want to message the director about, because that can be really vague, because depending on the context for a line, it could be sarcastic, it could be sensual, it could be funny, it could be dark, it could be evil. There's a lot you can just take the test sentence. Just like, hey man, did you say soda or pop? I need to know. Hey man, did you say soda or pop? I need to know. Hey man, did you say soda or pop? I need to know. Like, there's a million ways you can read every line. That's what multiple takes are for, is when you're not 100% sure what the best way to read a line is. And again, this is actually not on you as an auditioner, but it is something you might run into.
Yeah.
That is a good example of a time to email the director.
Yeah, and maybe by chance the director just isn't responding to you, and you just really want to hammer out this audition, because you know you should audition early.
Yeah, winks at camera.
Yeah, the best advice I can give for that is look at the character you're auditioning for and kind of get a feel for what they would most likely do. If you're auditioning for douchebag biker guy, chances are he's saying it mad if the line's asking about, hey man, you say soda or pop? Like, chances are he's yelling at someone.
Also, punctuation, really, really, really important. Like, obviously, you know, if there's a exclamation point or a question mark, you get like that interpretation. But little things like commas, people blow through commas a lot. Like, if there's a comma there, that's on purpose. That means a lot. So like, really pay attention to little things like that. An ellipsis means everything. So we mentioned that's a good time to email the director. Good times to email the director if you've got a question about the audition, a pronunciation that's not there. Make sure you check first. Don't be an idiot. Sometimes you can even email them with like, hey, I won't be able to audition for the next week or 2. Can I do it like a day late? Really, that's last resort. Don't do that. But that is something in the acceptable range. Times not to email the director. Never, never, never ask them a question that you should be able to find the answer to yourself. This is not a joke. People have asked me things like, I'll just say flat out, first thing in the audition, I need this to be an MP3 or a WAV. And people will be like, should it be an MP3? Yeah, dude. That's why it's there. Don't ask, how do I install this thing in Audacity? They're not tech support. And every time you email a director, even if you like, and it's, to be fair, it is never the people, like, it's never good actors who do that. Oh, man. If you say something like that and then you send in like even a good audition, the director will go, oh, cool. And then they'll look on the email to you and be like, oh, this is the idiot that didn't know what an MP3 was. All right, minus 10 points mentally.
Directors don't mind questions. They just need to be questions that are reasonable. For example, pronunciation of a name. There might be a typo in this line. I'm not sure what this character's feeling right here. Those are all fine. But if you're asking, what is mono? What's a wave? And like things like that, that's shit you can Google. Just Google it.
Yeah. So let's actually talk about one of the most important things, submitting the audition. So once you've got it wrapped up, you've got it cleaned up, there's no background noise, no pops, none of that stuff, great acting. How do you send it? How do you phrase it? This is a big question I get a lot. This is actually a very simple answer. There are only a handful of things you ever need to put in your audition. You need to get the subject line right, which should be in the audition instructions. Mm-hmm. Then you put, hello, my name is Jello or Brendan or whatever. I'm auditioning for this character. Here's my contact information. Attach the correct audio file. A lot of people don't. And then they email you again. Thank them for their time and the opportunity on the project, and like wish them well on it. So be like, hey, hey, thanks for taking time to look at this thing. Hope your game goes well. Smiley face, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
That is it.
Nothing more. The more you put, like, and this is a weird thing. The more you put on your audition email, the more in danger you are, the bigger a gamble it is. Because you might not realize this. The strangest things can strike a director, myself included, as like off-putting. And like you don't want to give them more opportunities to be like, oh, that's the guy who said have day instead of good day. Why did he do that? Okay. Like,
yeah. I mean, if your email starts with, hi, I'm a big fan of your work. My favorite thing you've done so far is so this is done.
Like, I mean, like, I'll be honest, that is not enough for me to throw someone out, and not because they're like, it's like, oh, they're flattering me, but like, don't ass kiss, and like, I don't care, quite frankly. I just want to hear your audition. I just hope you're a good actor when I see that email. That's all I want. Nothing else. Oh, and please, don't put yourself down in the email. Don't like undersell yourself. Don't walk up like, oh, I've only done this once before and I'm not very good at voice acting yet. And maybe like I shouldn't even be doing this. Ooh, woo, like some like a little cat face.
Ooh, woo, what's this? A bad audition?
No, ooh, woo. Ooh, woo, what's this? Bad audition. Never do any of that, because like if you talk yourself down, like, I don't know what reverse psychology trick you think you're doing. You're just making yourself seem more undesirable. So don't do that. Have confidence. Just be like, hey, here's me. Here's the audition. Thanks. That is all you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a lot of times people do make these long walls of text of like, I'm a big fan of this, that, and the other thing, yada, yada, yada. And yeah, sure, that's nice and all. But the director doesn't care about all that. The director cares about who is auditioning, if they like you, how to get a hold of you, and if you're just pleasant enough. Like, that's it. That's all you need.
That being said, we talked about don't put bells and whistles, don't frame your audition badly. With all that, it's like, hey, how do I make my audition stand out other than just being good? The important thing, there's a few things there. Come out swinging in your audition. A lot of auditions will allow multiple takes, usually 2 or 3. Sometimes it's just 1. Make sure you look at that. That's important. Mm-hmm. If you're allowed multiple takes in an audition, always start with your best. And you know what? If you've got 3 takes, that should not be like oh, thank goodness, I only need to cut this down to 3 takes. No. 3 takes is there because you have 3 different ideas, or you have 2 takes that are different from each other that are so good, you just can't decide which one needs to make the cut.
Yeah.
That's it. If I've got 2 takes that are, hey man, did you say soda or pop? I need to know. And hey man, did you say soda or pop? I need to know. That is not different enough to warrant 2 takes. It should be like the level of like, hey man, did you say soda or pop? I need to know. Or, hey man, did you say soda or pop? I need to know. Multiple takes is a way to show that if you do this at all, this is not like a tool you should use specifically for this reason. But if you have 2 different takes, you can't decide which one. It should be a tool to show, hey, I have acting range. I can do whatever you need to do, and I wasn't quite sure how to handle this line.
One way that I always look at my audition takes is if I listen to all 3 takes or however many takes I do for one of the lines, and if while listening to each of those, the image in my head of like the character being animated, if I can use the exact same animation for all 3 takes, that's not good.
Ooh, that's a really good rule.
If I hear, hey man, did you say soda or pop? I need to know. And hey man, did you say soda or pop? I need to know. That character is being animated completely differently both times.
That's a really good rule of thumb. I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I've always looked at it, because it's like, if you sound the same all 3, that's not useful. Congratulations, you're a tape recorder. I don't need that.
So the other thing is, when you get to bigger auditions, and like I am not the biggest auditions by any stretch of the imagination. My amount of auditions usually clocks in around 200 people. So at the end of an audition process, keep in mind, as a casting director, I'm looking through 200 auditions. I am not going to listen to all 3 of your takes. And this is a really important rule that Will told me recently. Do you just want to say it, like about the...
Yeah, so a while back, I went to a couple of different voice acting panels where it was like various voice directors and voice actors that have been in the industry for years. And one of the voice directors told me flat out, they're like, I will listen to auditions and voice demos for 3 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds. If I do not like that sound, gone instantly. There was no, well, maybe it'll get better. No, out. They're listening to hundreds of files. And if every file is, like a minute long, because depending how many takes there are, or the average voice demo.
And they're not listening to them once either. Like once they start cutting them down, I listen to like between like, I cut it down to like 20 at the end and then eventually get that down to like 5. I listen to those 5 like 100 times by the end of it.
Yeah.
So like you don't have that time if you want a good turnaround time. So again, come out swinging. And so don't let that scare you, by the way. You don't need to be like, oh, I need to get my audition notice. I need to be interesting. I need to do this in like the first 5 seconds or I'm a failure. Don't think of it that way.
No.
Just act honestly. And like, if you're right for the part, you're right for the part. You're set. Like you did it. Just act well. Don't say your name. None of that. Like not, hi, I'm Brendan Blaber. Here's what, okay. If you're going to do anything, if you're going to like say your name, which you shouldn't, like never say anything more than that. Nope. Oh, like more than even I sent the wrong file. Cause then I can just go, delete the email. If I open a file and it goes, hey, I'm Pinecone Bob and so I saw this on Tumblr and I actually just lean back and go, ugh, and say out loud.
Is that something that you get often?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
All the time. And like, they are lucky I don't delete that immediately, but I'll just go, ugh, skip, or shut up, which is really, really mean, but I'm just skipping through their audition trying to find the stuff.
Yeah.
So we mentioned all the things that you should or shouldn't have in your email. Sometimes people, like voice actors especially, will just have an automatic email where they attach their demo reel or their resume. That is totally fine. That is not a bad thing to do. I just wanted to point this out. I do this a lot. Say I'm down to 5 people, and I like all of them for different reasons, and I'm listening through, and a couple of them sent their demo reel. That demo reel can help you or it can hurt you. It is just another piece of your portfolio. If you are not 100% confident in that demo reel, get it out of there. I will tell you, that has actually knocked people off the audition for me before, listening to their demo reel. Because I'll be like, wow, listening to this, they actually, like, I don't care about their vocal range, like what other characters they can play, because they're only casting for this one thing. I don't think they're a very good actor. Like, emotionally, their range doesn't go that far in this piece. Maybe it's just a bad example, but they sent it to me. I'm using it as a reference. I don't like it. And I have in the past also like looked through resumes and been like, oh man, such and such is like pretty good, but like, are they better than so-and-so? Let me like, not Facebook stalk them, but it's the same idea where you kind of just search their like such and such VA and like try and find some other stuff therein. This is like at the very end of the process if there's like a neck and neck race, but like that does matter.
Alrighty, so you've edited the audio down. You've made a nice email. It's professional, but not stuffy. You're pleasant, but you're not a brown noser. So what's the problem? Well, it's where you sent it from. I'm sure your possible future director is ecstatic to receive an audition from uttersuckler@gcuck.com. Yeah.
Please don't send your fetish email thing. I want to be joking, but that's happened before. That's happened to Will before.
Listen, It takes like 30 seconds to make a new email, all right? And you may be going, but I've already done my first initial with my last name. Okay, add VA to the end of that. Congratulations, it's now your voice acting email. That's all it takes. Uttersuckler at gcuck. You thought that was acceptable to send? A human being is looking at that.
I can't even like speak to that really, to be honest, because for a long time, like, it's now kind of my brand, quote unquote, but like for a long time, like, I'd get weird looks because this is my main email. I use this for like casual stuff. And I would like send it to professors and they'd be like, Jello apocalypse. I'm like, hey, at least you won't forget it. Don't send things from uttersuckler at gcuck.com.
Jesus Christ. So, you didn't get the part, huh, uttersuckler at gcuck.com. What happens now?
All right, we're going to be talking about getting parts versus not getting parts. And again, getting parts versus the very, very much more common not getting a part. Will, we've been doing this for like, what, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, a while now, yeah.
How many parts would you say? You know, I'm gonna add a qualifier. How many parts not from me have you gotten?
Son of a bitch. Okay. Let's see here. So there's. Can I count like radio stuff?
No.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No, voice acting only. Like you auditioned for it.
Oh, and was completed. That's a big thing. Okay, so that gets knocked off. Off the top of my head, I think 5 or 6, not from you.
All right, I have 4.
Oh, really?
I have 4. So I'm doing the same rules. I have 4 from someone I've never been cast by before. Is the rule? I have like a resume. I've got maybe like 100 roles on there. So 4 of them are from people I've never worked with before. That is how common it is to get your audition through. And like, we've been doing this for a while. I think we're both pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I'd like to say. Like, it's really not a big deal if you don't get the audition, because it's not about, like, people are always like, how do I get my confidence back up if I don't get an audition? Like, do I suck? No, you don't. I mean, like, maybe you do, but that's... You might, it's possible. But, like, don't jump to that first. That's probably not it. It's not about, like, winning the audition or losing the audition. It's not, are you the best actor or you're the worst actor because you didn't get it. Auditioning is, like... It's not about finding the best actor. It's about finding the person that fits best with the director or the content creator's vision. And I'll tell you right now, from my experience, that is not always the best actor. I have flat out had like 10 people I was considering and gone, wow, that girl is not the best actor out of this group. Her voice is perfect. I am willing to sit down with her and have a much harder time in the booth, and I know that will happen. Because like I can see her instincts or like whatever from this, but like her voice is perfect and I am willing to take that bullet. And that's just something that'll happen sometimes. So like nothing is wrong if you don't get an audition. Even professionals. I was just at back at YomaCon. I went to J. Michael Tatum's panel, and someone asked him like, like basically the same question. What happens if I don't get auditions? He's like, you keep auditioning, man. I audition for like 12, 20 things a week. I get 1-2 roles a month, and it's my job. So like that's the professional level.
Yeah.
And like down here, it's nothing if you don't feel bad if you don't get a role. Do look at your audition and listen to it. Be like, hey, is there anything wrong with this? Like, did I not notice? Like, maybe I popped a pee. How could I have done this better? Maybe. Mm-hmm. But like, don't think it's because you suck. You might have just not been the right pick.
Yeah. I mean, so here's the other thing to keep in mind with this sort of a thing. You may not get the part. Yeah, that sucks. And it hurts. And eventually you will build a tougher skin to just let it roll. But because this has happened a couple times where I've auditioned for something and I wasn't the part, but then I've gotten a message saying, hey, I'm sorry you didn't get the role, but I do like your stuff. If I find something in the future that might fit you, would you mind auditioning? And it's like, great, I'll take that. That's fantastic.
Yep, that'll happen sometimes. I do that every single time I've ever held an open audition. I've always sent at least one message out of like, hey, I need more girl voices in your range, and you have a wonderful voice. You just weren't right for these characters. Can I please email you in the future? And like usually they're like, yeah, please let me build my network, which is the right thing to do.
Yep.
So generally, casting directors, people don't know this. Like, especially when they're starting out, you will usually not get notified if you don't make a role. You will not get like a, hey, thanks for auditioning. We're not using you. Best of luck in the future. Thanks for your time. You won't get that. You'll get nothing because you got to realize I only get like 200. I know a couple casting directors who get like 500, 1,000 auditions. They are not going to send out that email. That's like hours of time. They are just going to email like the 12 people who made it and be like, hey, you made it. And like also the other thing is, it might take a weird amount of time. It could take anywhere from 24 hours after the deadline for them to cast or 3 months. We can talk about our experience with that in a few minutes. But yeah, so the thing is, you won't know. So don't be waiting on it. Don't be like looking at like, oh, but like I'm checking the forum every day where they posted this and there's still no update. The moment you audition for something, forget about it. Because if you don't get the role, hey, whatever, you forgot about it. That was good practice you did. That was a good thing. It just went off into the ether. Doesn't really matter. But like then, even if you forget about it, 2 weeks later, you might get notified that you got a part. And that's super cool. And that will make you feel awesome. And it's not about like feeling bad or feeling good. It's about like just whatever, let it slide off your back. It's real nice.
When I first started getting involved with voice acting, I was getting roles pretty consistently. I mean, all things considered, because like when I first started out, I was kind of a nervous wreck and I auditioned for like 3 or 4 things, which is where most of that list comes from. And I got all the parts. So I was like, oh, voice acting's easy. You just get every part you want. And then I hit a brick wall where it was just like, no, you don't. And like for months, I got nothing, just nothing. And it was like, God, do I just really suck all of a sudden? But no, it's just, I didn't fit those parts. Or maybe I did send a bad audition. But when I look back at it, I go, okay, that sucked, but you know what? Whatever. That's it. You just need to be able to get past that.
After I got, oh my gosh, what was like so I was cast in a few things before I made any of my own videos. None of those panned out. That's very common. It's like 95% of the time stuff will just fall apart.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about that a little later. It's going to be a very long podcast. I did not get a role. Like I was still auditioning like maybe 5 times a year, which is not enough, by the way. But I only auditioned for things I was interested in because I was making my own projects. I think I went 2.5 years without being in a project, like without successfully auditioning for a project. So like that will just happen.
I do think it's pretty important. Audition for things you want to be a part of.
Yes.
Like don't just audition because you can. I mean, that's good practice, I guess, but then you're committed if it actually happens. So only audition for things that you are actually interested and invested in being a part of.
Yeah. Be very graceful about like, just like, oh, that's a darn shame that I didn't get that cool, crazy man that I wanted to play. Do not like hound anyone on the team like, hey, why didn't I get this role? Some directors offer critique. That's a very small percentage. Most of them do not. If they do not say I'm offering critique, do not ask. They have hundreds of people to listen to. They don't want to take the time to critique your acting. If you did not get a part, and I didn't think I'd have to say this, but I got this recently. Do not email the director and ask why I did not get the part. That is so unprofessional. That's a great way to make them go, it's that guy. You are never getting a part from me.
Yeah, and you may be sitting there and thinking, well, that's not fair. My read for that character was amazing. Right, and you know what? It might have been, and it just didn't fit. But because you sent that email, you are out. Mm-hmm. The other thing that you need to remember is networking. If you piss off this one director, if one of that director's buddies starts a project and then they get an email from you and they look at it and go, oh man, hey, I just got this audition. Listen to this, it's pretty good. And that other director will go, oh, no. I had this guy. You don't want any of that. Just toss it out now. Don't even look at it.
That is not uncommon. I have done that so many times. I know people who have like auditioned for me. Like there are people with reputations. Like it's a big thing. It's really important. We cannot stress enough how important networking is, and like just being pleasant. Even if you're not friends with people, which like, hey, you're not compatible with everyone. That's just how it works. Just always be pleasant. Never burn bridges unless you really unless they're toxic.
Yeah, which
happens. Again, it like. Unfortunately, like there's usually like 1 in 50 is just a bad person you shouldn't hang out with.
Welcome to the internet.
Yeah, that's what happens. People aren't always compatible, but like be as nice as you can. Let's talk about what happens when you get a part, because this is like the last stage of the auditioning, because it's the last thing between actually recording. Generally, after a casting call, I really try very, very hard. The moment a casting call hits midnight of whatever night, I try and get everything out at the very latest in 48 hours. I think one time I have failed to do that, and I was pretty ashamed by that. you want to get that out as early as possible, mostly so you can keep working on your project. But again, you'll be surprised how late some directors will go with. So Will and I were both cast in a project that we auditioned for last year in March, I want to say, like the start of March.
Yes.
And then we got an email in May, and it was like, hey, congratulations, you've been cast in this. And we were like, whoa, I did not think this project existed. If you are a director or a casting director, you never want the actor to get the email and go, I forgot this existed, because they probably don't remember the voice they were doing.
Well, I mean, that was one of my fears, quite frankly, with the project. It was really funny because we had sent out our auditions. We were really excited about the project because it looked really cool, and I'm super pumped to be a part of it now.
It still looks pretty cool. I'm really excited for when that moves along.
But it was so funny because we didn't hear anything back, and I was just like, oh, I guess we didn't get cast. Okay. And it's one of those fire and forget. And it's like, sent out the audition, didn't get it. It really sucks, but we move on. And the only reason I knew I got the part was because Jill was like, hey, dude, we're in the game. And it's like, we are? Mm-hmm. Wait, which one?
Yeah, right.
Who am I?
Oh, and two things I'm going to say there. One, the only reason we got that audition is because my sister composed for that game and it was a closed audition. Networking.
Mm-hmm.
With that audition, this is a good example of another thing about auditioning. I got a couple questions that are like, how many characters should I audition for? What should I do with that? You should audition for as many characters as you think you can fit the part for.
Yes.
And it's a great way to practice. So say there's 12 characters and maybe 6 of them are dudes. I usually end up trying out for 3. So say there's everyone's got their voice part. So Will has the Will characters,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have the me characters. Generally, this happens to me all the time. Almost every time I've ever been cast, I will try out for one part, I'm gonna get the sneaky snaky guy, and I'm gonna have a fun time. And then also just for shits and giggles, I'll try out for protagonist character who I don't think I fit at all. And I'll be I guess I'll just do some kind of Vic Mignogna thing. And then I'll get a message back and it's you got the Vic Mignogna thing. And I'm like, which, what? I don't remember that being my audition. Every time, so all 4 of those times that I mentioned earlier, I was not cast in the role I thought I was gonna go for.
Yeah, and with the project we were just talking about, I had auditioned for all of the Will characters, which was big, strong, manly man. And then we also had smooth talking, intelligent individual.
There was a king guy.
And then we had monster. I got monster. I've never done monster before, and I didn't think I was going to get monster, but I'm super jazzed, and it's a blast.
Yeah, I tried out for a project called The Pirate Mermaid, which is still in development. It's an Otome game. And I tried out for my favorite character is evil jackass who's smooth talking. I tried out for him. I tried out for a prince character, and the character I ended up getting was a parrot. and that's awesome. It's it's a surprise. So the thing is, you should try out for as many characters as you think you can do. Do not go outside of that.
Yeah.
You should not waste the director's time or your own time editing down your own takes. So say I would never go out for a character that Will is I would never play the dark evil emperor. I have a mid-high voice. It doesn't work for that. I'm aware of that. I can do an impression,
yeah,
but that's bad. If you can't, feel free to record it. Please do practice. That's how you get better. That's how you discover new voices. But at the end of the day, when you're listening back to it, be if you're okay, that's really not working. Not if it's I don't know about that. Still maybe send an I don't know about that, because I've been cast from those before. But
yeah,
if you're really all right, maybe I shouldn't be voicing a girl when I'm a boy. Yeah, don't do that.
Take, for example, a huge throwback to one of your older projects, when you were dubbing Cucumber Quest. The characters I auditioned for were Nightmare Knight, Tomato, and the one I scrapped because I listened back and went, what am I doing? This is not my character, was Cabbage. I was I could do this probably, and I tried it. I was
oh my God, no, you were a terrible fit for Cabbage.
Well, because the thing was I looked at the character and went, this character looks really fun and hilarious, and he really is. Mm-hmm. But that's not my voice. That's just not it at all.
This is a general thing. So when it comes to vocal range is a great skill to
Mm-hmm.
have. It is far from the best skill you can have in the industry, unfortunately. I would like to say, I like to think I have a pretty good vocal range. I have only been cast for one voice, and it's mine. So don't be surprised if it turns out there's a voice you get cast for a lot. You're just good at it. Mm-hmm. That will usually be your thing. That happens all the time in amateur industry, in the professional industry. That's really common. And it's not a bad thing. It makes you money. It's
Yep.
good. But just be aware of that. So after you get cast, you'll probably get like an email that's like, hey, we really like your voice. Would you be interested in taking the part? You respond yes, and then you set up a Skype thing. This is important. I see this a lot. People be like, hey, we need to set up a time to live direct. I have seen actors who I like even be like, oh, I can't audition for that. They have live direction. I don't care how much social anxiety you have. I don't care how shy you are. You need to do live direction.
Yeah.
If you say, I'm not ever going to do live direction, I'm just going to live in my little box, that's what voice acting's for, you will never get any role of consequence, never any important role in your life. And I'm afraid that's not hyperbole. That's just true because...
Yeah, I mean, so here's an example. Yeah, I'm a nervous wreck. Like, I actually took medicine to just like calm my nerves down.
Yeah, you're like a really stressy guy.
Yeah. So like when I got cast for Jello's one of Jello's first projects,
the first time I was ever a director, I was also scared.
and he was like, "All right, let's do live direction." I was like actually like building up for that day. I was like, okay, we're here for the same thing. And then like once we sat down and actually started recording, it clicked. I'm like, we're both here to do the same thing. We're both here to make a good project. That's it. And you maybe think, well, I don't want to sound like a goof, or I don't want to mess up the lines and waste their time. That's why you're there. Is because if you do goof or you do something wrong, the director can go, hey man, that was pretty good, but let's try it this way.
You'll be shocked how many times like I used to allow not live direction, and sometimes in my like worst moments, I'm like, hey, can you do a retake real quick? Just like throw me that. Like we don't need to set up a time or anything. That's usually a mistake.
Yep.
Because so say the line is, hey man, do you say soda or pop? I need to know. A lot of actors, like, I don't know why this will just happen. They'll be like, hey man, do you say soda or pop? I need to know. It's like, I hate how that sounds with the upward inflection on hey man. That's like not how I would say it. That's not how this character would say it. If they don't like that line, that retake could, like, who knows how long it'll take for the actor on the other end of the email chain to get back in the booth. That could be another week on the project. That's how projects fall apart. If you do live direction, yeah, it might, okay, the other thing is it will not be awkward. It might feel awkward. It's not. It's like being on stage and forgetting a line. It feels like you're there for 20 seconds. You're there for like a second and a half. And if you're like, oh God, I'm wasting this director's time, I'm messing up these lines. No, you're fine, dude. Like, so I've worked with a ton of actors. I have never like one time cast a person and then in the booth been like, oh, this is a mistake. I hate this person. Like, I think like literally the worst that happened is with like, this is the worst that's ever happened is with, Saru, who played Cucumber. Like sometimes she would just do that, like, hey man, and we would spend like 10 minutes on that line to get it right. Like and like at the end of that we're just like, oh, this line is the worst, but like we're having a good time.
Yeah,
because like the enemy isn't goddamn this voice actor, it's this line. It's like you're a team and you're making something, so don't be afraid of live direction, because if you refuse to do live direction, that is the equivalent of like conversing with someone with a telegraph when you've got a phone sitting next to you. It's it's stupid. I'm sorry.
It is, and I was really against live direction for a long time, and now that I've gotten more involved with this, I hate doing projects where it's like, yeah, just send me your lines when you're ready. It's like, oh, God, really?
It's the worst.
Are you sure? Like, I can, like, anytime, buddy, I'll pop in the studio. We can do this live because, God damn, it makes it so much better. And a lot of times people are like, oh man, I'm just screwing up this line so many times. And I've had those moments too. I like Jello, we had to record Hamtaro Bridge.
Yeah. Oh man, you were like batting 1,000 until we worked on Hamtaro Bridge, and then you felt so bad because you had to like retake a line for like 5 minutes. I'm like, this is nothing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the best part. It's like I looked because I felt like we were there forever. I was like, oh my God, I'm just chewing up so much time. And I went back to clean up the audio because that's a nice thing to do. Here's a tip for you: clean up your live audio. I cleaned it up and I looked back and we'd only redone the line 5 times. That was it. I was like, oh, geez, is that really? That's it?
It feels so much worse and slower. Like, and so when we say like, oh, come on, like, get out there, you baby, do live direction. It's not like we weren't in your shoes at one point. Like, you got to put yourself out there. And it's scary at first. So is auditioning. This is all scary to do. You are putting yourself out there to be judged explicitly.
Yeah.
And like, if you can get it in your mind that it's not a big deal, because it's not. Like, it feels like it is, but it's really not. And like, people are trying to work with you. You're all trying to make things together. Like, you wouldn't be cast if you were the problem on the team. That's what auditions are for. I'm just gonna hit some things that, like, here's how I go through auditions personally. Every director's a little different. This is what I do. Maybe it'll help you just hearing this. So I will put out an audition. I usually do 1 or 2 week auditions. Feel free to like take notes if you want to set up dubs yourself, because this is a weird thing to do for the first time. There's not a lot of guides for this. You're going to want to like put up an audition. You're going to want it to be pretty short. Don't do like a month, because people will forget. It'll fall to the bottom of whatever forum it's on. Don't do any of that. Keep it a week or like 2 weeks, at 3 at the longest, and really promote it the entire time, because you're just going to get that big burst at the start and that big burst of latecomers at the end. That's all you get. You'll get like 1 person every 2 days in the middle. Even I do that. And I like to think I have some pretty good internet presence at this point. What I do once the auditions actually start coming in, also you got to make a packet. If you're making an audition packet, put every rule on there you could think of. You would be shocked with the things that people will do if you don't put it on there. This has never not happened. So someone will always send me an audition and they'll do something wrong. I'm like, why the hell would they do that? And I'll look back, I'm like, I guess I didn't say that they can't record their audition only in honks, but they shouldn't do that. So I'll add that. And like that, you just got to do that. It's important. Also, please make sure you have directions under all your lines. That's everything. You need to know how good people are at taking directions. That's acting. After auditions start coming in, every day I'll listen to whatever new auditions I get. I use Gmail. The reason I ask for MP3 and WAV files is so I can preview them and listen to them without having to download them, because I don't want that clogging up my computer if I'm not going to use you. After I listen to an audition, if I'm not interested in it for whatever reason, if there's background noise or whatever, or it's just like not right, then I won't do anything to it. I will just like, I usually won't even listen to all of it. I'll close it and then I'll just not mark it as anything on the side. If I hear an audition and I think this might work, I like this, or like, yeah, okay, I could see this being a contender, or even this does not work at all, but you know what? I love this voice. I want to use this in the future. I will mark it with important. That'll be like that's like the halfway step. And then like once in a while, I think for Hamtaro Bridge, I had 250 auditions. And I had 3 stars. And if I put down a star, like a favorite star, that's like, oh, you are like almost guaranteed the part, like just from me listening in. I'm going to leave that open, because I'm like, who knows? Someone at the 11th hour might come in and sweep it off your feet, which has happened before. But that's like, hey, these are what I got. After, when the deadline is over, immediately, I'm always very excited to cast. So I do it at like midnight until like 4 in the morning. I will download all the ones that I like, usually most of the important ones, and like mark important and all the stars. And say I've got like about 20 per character. I'll put them all in folders and then I'll listen to them back to back. And I'm pretty generous with like important marker. So I usually going through it, we'll go like, all right, are you better than this one? Are you better, like compare these two? And just going right through, I can cut out half. Then with some further deliberation, I get it down to 3 to 5. I always like to have 3, because just in case, I've been lucky, this has never happened. You might send an audition off to someone, maybe they won't even respond, maybe they're just emails dead or whatever, or maybe they're not actually interested, maybe they just did it for practice and like, oh sorry, I'm going to Europe in like a week, I can't actually do this. You want to always have a backup or 2, because that way it's like, hey, you are also a very good contender for this role, so I'm going to keep you on the up and up just in case. So once I've got it down to 3, by the way, this is the part where demo reels and like the little things you put in your audition, this is where it counts. Because if I'm looking at like the small, I like, this is hard. Casting direction is really difficult. I like most of the time I actually send it to other voice actors I know and be like, hey, what do you think of these 3 people or whatever? Like, Will, you've done that many times with me.
Yes.
So I'll just throw auditions out and be like, oh gosh, you know what? All of these are really close. This guy, I don't like the way he signed his email. And I don't mean that like he said like sincerely instead of thanks or some crap like that. But like, you know, it'll just be something a little too cheeky or whatever. And then like, you know, I'll look in their demo reel. I'll look at all the other stuff they've done and I'll be like, oh, something about you, I'm not feeling it. That's all it takes. because that's what I need at that point. It's so close. It's really hard to cast people. A lot of actors are good and more of them are bad. So yeah, just that's basically the behind the scenes thing. We've hit all these, but maybe you just like skip to this point in the podcast. Things that if I see them in your audition, they will immediately make me dislike you or even just throw your audition away flat out. If you've got an incorrect file name or subject line in the email, this makes sorting harder. It does matter. So like usually the format I do is like the role name _ my name .mp3. So it'll be like Oxnard _ will.mp3. And then I'll have a big folder and everyone will be named Oxnard _. But like say some idiot, say like Pinecone Lover 48.
Fucking Pinecone.
Does Pinecone Lover 48 _ Oxnard. Then you don't fit in anymore. Then I have to go in and manually change that. And I don't like you as much, Pinecone Lover. You and your, no kink shaming, but you know, weird. And like you really like don't want the director to spot you for that reason. Another thing, don't introduce yourself in the audition. I don't care. You're wasting my time. Just impress me with your acting. So those are the things you just, I don't want to hear any of that. The fun part, knowing when to not audition for a project.
Yeah, so here's the dealio. We've talked about the actual audition process, voicing it, all that jazz, and where to even find them. But one of the key things that we mentioned earlier was realizing if it's a project that you want to be a part of, or if it's a character you want to be. There are red flags. There's a lot. Honestly, if you're bored and you're not a voice actor and you just want to see what we're talking about, go to Casting Call Club, go to Behind the Voice Actor, go to any of those sorts of sites and look up what projects are looking for voice actors or animators or directors or writers or composers.
That is the biggest red flag. If any project is looking for anything that isn't a voice actor on a voice acting site, no. I can't believe that's not like an instant ban, honestly. Though I guess how do you moderate something like that? How do you be the person who officially goes oh man, Lion King 2 redub gender swap. That's too stupid.
If a project is looking for a director, that means the guy who posted it doesn't want to do it. So why the hell should you?
He just wants it to exist. That's like not uncommon too. Like people do that all the time. Don't be afraid to look at what else a director has done.
Yes.
Because like, so if they've got nothing under their belt, that doesn't immediately mean they're garbage. Like, hey, we all start somewhere. But if they have like a bunch of projects and it's like, hey, we're like redubbing this, they're like, we need to fill in a cast member, recast number 4 for the same project, or I don't want to be ageist or whatever this is called. If they're under 18, no, sorry.
No. Do not do it.
If it's anything more than a song cover, no, I'm not, like, don't audition for that, because I'm sure there's exceptions. I know plenty of voice actors who are like, I know a couple 13, 14, 15-year-old voice actors who are actually very good, and they are like professional and everything. I have never met a project organizer who is like under the age of 20 that did anything well.
Because high school is hard.
High school is very hard. Like, yeah, that's not an excuse. Sorry. Most of us are in college or have jobs or are starving actors in the streets of New York. We know what it's about, man. Yeah, so none of that. Like, the thing is, your time is important. Oh, so we keep saying, like, don't audition for this, and it sounds like we're just being dicks. Here's what will happen. Here's the process. You will get cast, if you are lucky, in quotes. Then a project will stay in this project limbo forever. This happens all the time. So this is why I said at the beginning, we can't really recommend these sites, but they're good for practice. Is because I mentioned I was not in anything for 2.5 years because I primarily used Voice Acting Alliance. It is so common for projects not to get completed. Like, actors are pretty common. Good actors are kind of uncommon. Good producers, good content creators, those are rare. If you ever meet one, if you ever are friends with one, stay friends with them forever. They are the best people online because they are what will produce, like, they are the future. They will produce things. Meanwhile, all these other people are like, wouldn't it be really fun if we dubbed Tangled, but like, you know, we just dubbed it? Like, wouldn't that be a good time?
Yeah.
And then, God, like, they don't know what to do.
Any project, if like, for example, let's say they're like, hey, we're doing a redub of Ice Age 2 or a SpongeBob episode. No, why? It's already been dubbed. It's already been dubbed well.
By professionals.
Yeah, by professionals. And my favorite, I fucking love it when it's like, we're doing a redub of SpongeBob. Hey, I need you to sound like SpongeBob. Why are you doing this then? There's no point. Why are you looking for a SpongeBob to voice SpongeBob? He's already been voiced by SpongeBob. There's no point to this. You're wasting everyone's time. And it doesn't even matter because they're not even going to produce the damn thing.
They're not going to produce it. Yeah, so we mentioned earlier, if anyone's looking for an animator, an actor, or whatever, or not an actor, animator, director, producer, composer, none of that stuff. If you see any of that, don't even touch it. Because voice actors are important, don't get me wrong. They are the last part of the equation. They are the least involved.
Yeah.
Even professionally, most voice acting stuff, like you got like years of work on games and movies. The voice actors will be in there for like 12 hours max. Like they are unless it's animation, they're the last thing that gets added to the equation, especially for games. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Never ever. If a game isn't like done, and I mean like done, like it's at least in the like the alpha or the beta, do not audition for it, because voice acting is like, it's like icing on a cake. You don't need it for things like games. You should have it. It's wonderful, but you don't need it. You should have that stuff already made. Do not audition for something if there's like a big chunk of the production crew missing. If there's no director, what? We were in a project for a long time where there was an editor. She was a high school student. This like went on for basically a year almost of like nothing getting output. It was a very simple project. This person kept 40 people, like 40 very talented people in waiting for all this time. And that is unacceptable. You cannot do that. Like basically like, I don't know, 0.00001% of the project got completed, would you say?
Yeah, barely. Well, I mean, some of the other problems that we had with it was like, I had sent my lines in very, very early because
me too,
because they had got me the lines I needed. And then I got a message like 3 weeks later saying, hey, I haven't gotten audio from these people. And normally I wouldn't get mad and just say, oh, they missed my email or something. They had responded, because whenever I send audio to someone, I say, hey, here is my audio. Can you please respond so that I know that you've received it? This is when you're actually a part of the project. This is not your audition. Do not ask for that for your audition. This is for when you've gotten into the project. She responded that, yes, I have your audio. And I was like, cool. And then she said that she didn't get it. I was out. I was done. I was like, no, you will not blame me for something that's on you. That's your fault.
So basically, like big symptoms of never do this projects. There's a vicious cycle of bad actors and directors, both of whom are irresponsible. This is on the director, by the way. If you are becoming a director, that is a huge job you are taking on. Do not take that lightly. Even if it's a dub that should take like, if something's going to take 1 week in your mind, multiply that by 5. That should be the rule of thumb, I think. 5 or 6. Like I thought the Cucumber Quest dub would be quick. Each of those took me like a month of full-time work.
They look good.
Thank you. People don't realize that. That's why we're shitting on high school students so much. And like that's, if you're a high school student and an actor, then like that's totally fine. If you're a high school student and you want to like direct something, prove us wrong, man.
Yes.
Like please do.
We want to be proven wrong in this regard.
Yeah. No. Oh my God. We want it to change. It's so bad. And like the good thing is it doesn't take very long. Like you only have to be snuffed by like one project before you figure out what the warning signs are. And like you'll know, it's hard to describe. You'll know them when you see them. So like these projects, the vicious cycle is directors will kind of like not have a great grip on their actors. The actors will fall out of existence. They'll just be like, I don't really want to do that project anymore. And they'll just like stop responding to emails and stuff. The director will notice like a few months later and be like, oh, hey, we're missing so-and-so, so we need a recast. This is going to hold the project another month. And then by the time they get a new person, another actor is left. And then it just does that into infinity until everyone goes, screw it. That's pretty common. You might also just get like an animator who just like kind of doesn't want to do it halfway through because it's hard work. That it happens a lot. I saw when I was asking friends for like, hey, what would you say for auditioning? They said, hey, auditioning is most of the work. The thing is 90% of the time you will not get a part. 5% you will get a part and it won't be like, it won't even get made. And then 5% you will get a part and it will get made. I think that's generous, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the big challenges that you face in online voice acting, is that a lot of this stuff is just not going to get made.
Yeah.
Just flat out.
You got to get an eye for production thing. Like any like Let's Read Homestuck, that's not going to happen.
Here's a quick bullet list of like just rapid fire of like, if you see these in the title, it's probably not going to happen. Let's Play, Sims, Machinima, Halo, Abridged, and the word please is in the title.
That's not a joke. We have an example. I'll probably show it on screen here. Yeah, I should open that image and just like read those off almost.
Oh my God.
We did not cherry pick these either. We like opened these up and Will just found this in a row immediately.
Yeah, this is not like spliced together or anything. And obviously we're hiding like details of who's involved and all that jazz. But like none of these are things that are either going to be fully produced or...
And so the thing is, even if you're not being paid, which like the goal is to eventually get paid probably for your hobby.
Yes.
It takes a long time and a lot of luck. So even if you're not getting paid, your time is valuable.
Yes.
Like, don't waste it on stupid projects. So like just looking at this, I'll try and like point out some things. We can like cut to the ones that are more important. Vocaloid cover group, that's too general. There's no specific outline. I've been in plenty of like, let's do a bunch of these X groups. They very rarely pan out, though they might be good for networking. Moonlit Valley Minecraft roleplay, might be okay. Really oversaturated. Minecraft is always a bad sign. It's also not interesting. Pride's Furry Crew, what is that?
I have no idea.
What is that?
That was one of the reasons that caught my attention. Like, so what is it? It's an animation, but I don't know what it is.
Dinosaur Adventure Abridged. God bless Abridged series. I love them. I've made 2 of them. Holy crap. Really? No. Don't audition for Abridged series. You can if you want. Just have the lowest expectations in the world.
Yeah. Also, what is Dinosaur Adventure?
I assume it's an anime.
Okay.
Click on this project, please. Click on this project, please. Mwah, beautiful. A golden example. Unacceptable.
Oh, is this by Prince of Nigeria? Who did this one?
Is this the one that you like the text to me?
Yes.
Of like the pleading?
Yes.
Okay, so like
where they are 1,000,000% invested.
Oh my God. I'll also like I might screen cap that too. That is amazing. This is like a perfect poster child of the worst thing you can do. Again, Undertale Corrupt Flowey, that's like there's a million Undertale things. Find something more interesting, find something original. English cover group, again, Mixers Wanted, that's the warning sign.
Oh, there it is, yep.
There it is. Original song Dead Inside, vocalist Screamo needed, that one might be real.
That is actually okay.
That one might be okay. Yeah, if you are a singer, hey, that's one thing. They've got a plan, they've got a specific role, like good sign. Maybe you're a Screamo guy. Also, I'm not super familiar with the changes of Casting Club. That one's got a check mark next to it. Maybe that's a verified. Maybe that's a good sign.
Ooh.
Dusty Memories, MLP fan animation. My Little Pony, don't do it. There used to be a reason to do it, which was it got a lot of views. That's now the bad children oriented thing that gets a lot of views now is Friday Nights at Freddy's. I always call it that. Five Nights at Freddy's. My Little Pony is dying. Don't do that anymore. There's now no reason.
Yeah.
Not even for practice. Bad.
Also, it's fan animation.
Yeah.
Anything that's got like animation, like active animation, that's not happening. It's just not likely.
Animation takes a long time. It is very hard work. So stuff like that. Will, you and I are in a Team Fortress 2 thing. That's like a machinima. Pretty good script.
Oh.
Amazing animation. That has been in the works for like 2 years.
Yeah, it's been in the works for a long time. It's really funny because every once in a while he'll be like, hey, check out the progress. I'm like, this looks amazing. And he's like, yep, I'm like 25% done. I'm like, oh, buddy.
Yeah, poor guy. I'm like, yeah, that happens. I'm like, God bless people that have that like work ethic. That's another thing. Even if you audition for something, once you put the work in, you might not see that crap for years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so here's a funny thing of like not hearing back for a while and thinking a project might be dead. So when I first started doing voice acting, I auditioned for a Dragon Age Origins mod. So this is back in 2012.
Oh, okay. I know what this is. Yeah.
In 2012. I got cast and I was like, oh, cool. And I voiced some like douchebag of a merchant. And the guy was like, yeah, these are great. Cool. I'll let you know when the project's done. I'm like, great. Cause like he had a trailer and everything looked really cool. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then I got an email about 2 months ago saying, hey, it's out. Check it out. I'm like, what? You did it? God bless you. Like, that is amazing. Bless you for finishing that, but wow.
So here's the thing, like, bottom line, really look at projects to audition. Really look at, like, see what else the director's done, look at their background. You'll get a sense for this after a while. It's hard to say it at the outset. The rule of thumb is do projects that you think will be worth doing. And, like, that might be something as stupid as, like dub something over where everyone has a mixy match dumb voice. That's fine. Like, if you want to see that dumb thing get made, like, goddamn, hop on that. But, like, if you see something that's like, well, I guess I need some more stuff to, like, practice. No. You don't need to, like, do dumb stuff to practice. If you want to practice voice acting, like, go, like, read a manga and voice a character out loud as you do it. Get some friends together. Do, like, a movie night where you just dub over stuff for fun. There's a million ways to do it that are not, like, wasting your time with, like, people who will not give you anything back.
Yeah, and I'll also just toss this in here because I've done this more than once. It is okay to say no to people that request you directly.
Yes. Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
Because I mean, there have been a few projects where I've been requested to voice in it, and I look at the project, I do a little deductive work of just like seeing what have they done, what's the level of quality and things like that, or even like what is the project about. There was one where it's like, hey, I'm going to be doing, what was it? Super Smash Bros. Versus Dragon Ball Z Machinima with Kermit in it. And I was like, I'm out, dude. Like, I'm out. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And they even sent me like, oh, here's a preview of like, what I plan on having some of the characters talk like. It's just like a
sad Kermit model on the floor zooming in with like Mad World playing softly in the background.
Actually, that was a different one. This is no, I've been requested for weird shit. It sucks when you've got golden pipes.
It's okay. I've been requested for porn too.
Yeah, because like, so I was like, okay, let's say I do want to be a part of Dragon Ball Z versus Super Smash Bros. With Kermit in it. Let's see what you've done in the past. And it was this audio post, and I listened to it, and the opening line was Kermit saying, I'm going to punch you in the... And I was like, I'm out. Are you kidding me? No, I have no interest in having my name associated with this at all.
That's the thing. So that's why, like, Machinima and Sims are on that list of no-fly zone. That stuff might get produced, actually, like, pretty frequently, too. Minecraft, too. There's so much of it. It's usually so bad. People usually don't know how to write. That's just the fact, unfortunately. Yeah. So don't waste your time. Oh yeah. Also read the audition lines. If they look like garbage, like really like garbage, they're gonna be garbage in the main project. So that's a warning sign. And another one, just good rule of thumb: check the ambition of the project. If it's I want to dub a several 100-page thing, probably not gonna happen. If I want to make a movie, probably not gonna happen. It like. Really look at the skill level of who's making it. Like, I want to make a manga. I've seen a couple times. Oof, that's several tiers of no. It's really, really like, it's hard to say no, by the way. But if you're polite, like, there's nothing they can do. There's some guy living like in, San Antonio or wherever.
Yeah.
I hope that no one who's ever messaged me that I've ignored or said no to lives in San Antonio, so they think that's a specific dig. I think we've covered most everything. So
yeah, I think
we've covered a lot.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
I mean, I'm having a good time. Hopefully someone listening to this might be.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing for people that made it this far. This is an exception. These are not going to be setting the precedent of how long these are. Mm-hmm. The reason why this one is so long is because we need to talk about the beginning of voice acting, and as you can clearly see, there's a lot. Also, we won't do this in the future. We got together, thought of every single thing about auditioning, wrote 12 pages of in-depth information, which maybe I'll post somewhere. We didn't even get to all of it. And we just decided, like, screw it, let's bullet point it. And that's what we're doing right now. So that's why there's so much. That will not happen again in the future. No.
Before we, like, thank our patrons, I have a few questions for you, Will.
Oh, cool.
These are totally off the cuff. So these are questions, I asked people to send me questions specifically about auditions. I got a couple different things.
Okay.
And I picked some of my favorites that I think are most relevant that we didn't touch on in the podcast at all. So I just want to talk about those because they didn't really fit anywhere specifically, but I think they're important.
Yeah.
If you have a question about voice acting, any kind of question, please shoot me a question just in a tweet, or if you like want to submit it on Tumblr. My Tumblr is just, jelloapocalypse.tumblr.com. Twitter is at welcome to tweet. Here's some questions. What is the most embarrassing thing you can do in an audition?
I think one of the most embarrassing things you can probably do in an audition is totally not editing it appropriately. Like you put your like, hi, I'm Todd. This is my first time recording.
Which again, shouldn't have that at all.
If you've got like 7 takes, auditions that
are unintelligible.
Yeah.
Like literally, like if I didn't write the line, I would not know what you were saying.
Yeah, that was when you shared that, we had 8 people listen to it and every one of us went, what the hell is this guy saying? We had no clue.
The best part of that audition was he added a word that wasn't in the line, and that was the only word we understood. I would say, so the most auditioning embarrassment I've ever received was so I needed to recast an actress for various reasons. I put out a video that had her old voice, and I said, hey, if you can hit this, that's great. If you can't, that's okay too. Just do your best. Do whatever you think is right for the character. We're open to whatever. And I had a couple lines of the old actress reading lines, and then I had new lines, which were the audition lines, because I didn't want anyone to hear the old voice actress, and like I was worried that if I used the exact same lines, they would like read it with the same intonation as her, which is not what I wanted.
Yeah, good point.
And I got an audition on that was back when video responses existed on YouTube, so this was a long time ago. I got a response that was a video response of somebody completely unedited, a 12-minute video audition of her reading the lines that the old voice actress read. And she was like doing commentary on herself. So yeah, the most embarrassing thing that you can do is go as far away from the audition as possible.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's not even close.
It's not a set either. Like, don't like try to add like humorous jokes or stuff in your emails or anything. Like, you're not a comedian. You're an actor. You don't need to be funny.
Here's a hot tip for you. Unless you've gotten to know the person, you are not as funny as you think you are.
That's true in general.
Yep.
This is not specifically for auditioning. This is a confidence thing. And I have an answer to this as well. What would you recommend to do for those who don't like the sound of their own voice? And I've actually been asked that at panels before. My response is, no one hates your voice except you. You are the only person in the world. And the longer you do voice acting, the more you listen to your voice, it more becomes annoying that you have to edit anything. That it's like, oh, I hate listening to myself. Fun fact, you are the only one who hears your voice as you do.
Yes.
Your voice travels through your bones in your ears to your ears. Your voice sounds deeper than it really is to you. You don't, that's why it sounds weird. It sounds like, oh, it's like me, but not, it's uncanny. You get so used to that so quick. It is not a problem.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about like, oh, I sound so different or weird here. You just sound like what you normally sound like, to be honest.
Okay, so I actually have a very different opinion on this.
Okay.
But it makes me sound like a bad guy.
Do it.
If you don't like the sound of your own voice, why are you voice acting? No, like legitimately, if you don't like the sound of your own voice, why are you voice acting? That doesn't make sense to me.
I guess I can understand that. Maybe it's a passion for acting, but like the tool they have is not a tool they like.
Okay, that makes more sense, I guess, but
it is a little strange. But if you like anime or whatever and you want to become a voice actor, by the way, hot tip, never like study voice acting via anime or anything like that.
Oh, it's so different.
You get funneled so hard in a dub. Watch actual live action movies or go to the theater or take an acting class or do improv. But like the longer you act, it's a real quick transition. Like within 1 year, your voice will no longer be weird.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the biggest thing is like if you don't like the sound of your own voice, it may not be the sound of your own voice, it may be how you're using it. And I mean, when I listen back to some of my old commercials or worse back in college, oh, it's agony. Oh, it's awful. I hate it so much. But that's because I didn't know how to use it yet. Mm-hmm. And now that like I've gotten into live recordings and I've done a lot more things that are outside my comfort zone. Like, for example, I had to do a really bad German accent for a Bratwurst commercial. Oh, God. No, I will never repeat that commercial unless I get paid. It's not how you sound, it's how you're delivering things. That's what you don't like.
Yeah, it's really bad. Oh my gosh. So I marathoned all of Bacano Abridged, which is up for publicly on my Patreon because it can't be on YouTube. Ha cha cha cha, plug. The oldest episodes of Bacano Abridged are the worst things I've ever made ever. I hate them so much. I hate them. They are terrible. I hate everything in my delivery. I like some of the writing. If I heard myself as a voice actor, I would block myself. I was like the worst VA I'd ever heard. So the thing is about your voice, don't hate your voice. No one else sounds like you. You have a tool nobody else does. And that's not even like everyone's special. Cause like, that's not like we mentioned earlier, everyone has a voice they are good at. You will eventually get locked into one role. Usually that'll happen. Everyone's got their one thing. Like Chula, we were talking about this earlier. She's like, I always play little sister characters. It just always happens. I've cast her as little sister. I've done that like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
It gets you roles. You will have something that gets you roles better than most people will like ever be able to get that kind of role. So don't dislike your voice.
Yeah.
Another question. This is a good one. This is like one I've never heard. I heard this one time. This is tricky. What if they reject me because of my dyslexia? I was rejected recently for it, and now my confidence is shot. First of all, if anyone is an asshole enough to go, you have dyslexia, like you are not on the project anymore, you didn't want to work with them anyway.
Yeah, no, that is not an environment you want to be with.
Also, accidental good translation. You know who on our team has dyslexia? Chula.
Oh yeah, no, and she crushes it.
Yeah, no. So I've actually gotten questions about this before. Can I voice act with X disability? Dyslexia especially, you definitely can.
Yes.
First of all, do not in an audition mention you have dyslexia. Not because it's like, oh, you got to sneak yourself in there first, but it's the same thing as like, don't say that you're sick. Don't like undersell yourself. You don't need to. That's the type of thing that like after you get the role, you can be like, hey, by the way, like I have like, this is a special condition we need to fulfill. And dyslexia is so easy to like work with as a director. It's just, hey, can I have my lines like a day early? Can I just look them over? You might have to memorize them depending on how bad it is. Don't worry about your confidence for that. Like, I mean, like that's hard to say, but like, don't worry. Fuck you. Don't worry about your confidence.
So the biggest thing there is like that is a rare thing to run into, is a director that would like attack that.
Yeah, I'm sorry that happened. Good Lord.
That is unacceptable. That is not professional, and honestly, it kind of worked out in your favor.
That is a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, I'm sorry that happened. That's horrible. But really, this is to your benefit, because do not work with that person ever. That is unacceptable.
General thing to other speech impediments. There's a million different kinds. It's a rainbow of speech impediments. They all have a different thing. I mentioned that like poor articulation and slurring of speech are like, personally, that is a big, I'll be honest, that's a big turnoff for me as a director. It is not impossible to work with. But the thing is, like, if you've got a huge pool of auditioners, that can be very difficult to be like, wow, they are good enough that I'm willing to work with like what I hear from that audition, which sometimes is really rough. And like, maybe it's because it like, I know for some people a speech impediment gets worse if they're nervous. That's unfortunately a thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty nerve-wracking to audition. It can be hard. Like I might not want to take that because it's very, very difficult on the audio editing end, because like if all the words are slurred together, I can't like take them out. I can't Frankenstein a take together, which I do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing.
Oh, I've been there.
It's very difficult. But you know what? There are always workarounds. You can be like, hey, I've got this thing. I'm really working on it very hard. I've known a couple voice actors. I don't know any offhand like professionals who have a speech, like there's gotta be one, right? Like
there has to
like
be.
Yeah, there's gotta be a ton. But you can always king speech it. You can always get better with it. You can always work on articulation. I know people who, when I met them, like me actually, not that this is like a speech impediment like medically or anything. Listening to my old takes, especially when I was directing myself, which I was very bad at, I would like all the time be slurring words together, like blah, 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 and half of my takes were unusable. And you like, if you notice that thing and you really sit down and you really practice it, you'll get like better little by little.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to that dyslexic person. That sucks.
That is a rare and honestly unheard of thing.
I'm just gonna guess, I don't actually know, I highly doubt that director has a lot of projects under their belt, if any, that rejected you for that, because good God.
Yeah, no, that is
That's not a person people are going to want to work with.
No. Yeah. So best of luck.
Ooh, I didn't even see, we already covered when auditioning for projects online, what are tells that the director and production team are dedicated and reliable. Same way you'll get a normal, like we talked about this already with like auditioning and things. Same way you'll get a normal sense of this, just like the way they word stuff. If you're like, hopefully you're good at reading people. I know some people aren't. If you just like notice little things, this is unfortunately true. Your first impression of someone, usually correct.
Yeah.
If you're a little shaky on someone, like be really suspicious.
Whenever you're looking over a project online, do some deductive work. Like legitimately, like when you scan it real quick and you're like, okay, this looks kind of neato. Legitimately be on that page for like 5 to 10 minutes. Like just read every line. Like get a feel for how it's written. Are there a lot of typos? Is there a really good presentation? Like, for example, when I looked at Jello's audition for Cucumber Quest.
Oh, I spent a whole day on that.
And it showed, and that's why I was like, this is going to go somewhere. And even though that was one of my first things I auditioned for, like, I looked at that and compared to other projects and went, okay, this guy sat down, gave me a picture of the character, color-coded everything so I knew what information was for what character, made sure I knew the direction for each line, had deadlines, like it was all super clean cut. It was super easy to read, and it just clicked in me like this guy wants this to be done, and he wants it done right. It's like, okay, let's do this.
What is the best way to prep for an audition? Same way to prep for a recording thing? That's actually a very good question, honestly. I have never done an audition where I didn't see the audition, read over everything, and just walk around for like 2 or 3 hours doing the character voice and like trying to find it.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that doesn't even end up being the voice I always use, honestly. Sometimes I'll like sit down, record it, listen back to always listen back to yourself mid-recording. Like see how it sounds. Do not like record all of it, go like, that was great for 30 minutes for some reason. Sit down, listen to it, never mind, that sucks. That is the worst. Also, that'll make like you'll be able to check if you're peaking or anything.
Yeah.
So practice a couple different voices, try some things, do what feels natural. Same thing for going into a booth in a recording session. Watch what you eat beforehand. Different foods can really screw. Soda is very bad for your throat. Bubble water is bad for your throat.
Milk,
dairy. If you should never drink dairy the day before, if possible. Like you know, not like the night before, but like if you've got a thing you're gonna do at like 3 o'clock, maybe don't even at like lunch drink milk. That kind of stays in your throat. It makes you feel gunky. Yeah, dairy is horrible. It makes you sound terrible. Water, tea, green apples. I don't know why green apples. I don't know what they do. They're magic. Like right now my voice is like getting a little like there's some spit in my mouth. I sound a little gross. It's starting to creep in there. I've been munching on a green apple this entire podcast to counteract that. It just sort of like cleans up your mouth. I don't know why. It's a good thing. It makes you sound just a little bit better. So if you got some green apples, just bite one of those.
Good job, apples.
Good job, apples. Would a director like to hear lines that relate to the casting call but are not part of the given lines? That is a tricky question. It is impossible to gauge a director for the most part before you've actually interacted with them.
Yeah.
I personally and a friend of mine, Michaela, we're both casting directors, and both of us like outtakes. Both of us like extras. We like hearing that. We encourage that. It is really dangerous. I would not do that as a base.
Yeah.
If they say something in their audition that's like, we want to know, oh God, this is so dangerous. We want to know that you're funny or you have a good sense of humor or whatever. Like, again, if you do not naturally have something that like you think is like genuinely good, like, and it should be short, by the way, like,
yes.
So example, I'll just flat out say I was, for a fan parody of a Legend of Korra thing, I was trying out for the part of Avatar Wan today. And one of his lines was, it was like, show us you're energetic. And it was like, he was boasting that he had fire powers. So I went full out and I screamed. It was something like, hey guys, guess who's got fire powers? And I shouted it really hard, and every time I'm gonna turn my gain down, I'm just gonna do it again. Hey guys, guess who's got fire powers now? Woohoo! Stuff like that. So the woo-hoo-hoo-hoo was not in there. I did a couple takes like that where some of them were like, oh, like, yeah, aw, baby, like Avatar 1, motherfucker. And I knew their work, by the way. I'm familiar with the producers. And I was like, that is the kind of thing I think they might like to hear, to know that I'm a good fit for this character on this team. If you can get a sense like that specifically, and like, you should be pretty confident, like you should be at least 70% sure this is a good idea. So what I did was I kept the 3 takes, I put about 4 seconds of silence, and then I put a couple more, like I put the extra line in there, and it was not longer than the audition or anything, it was just short. And then at the bottom, like in a comment underneath it, I posted like, hey, the first 3 are my lines. I included this outtake for fun. Personally, I also like hearing, when I'm going through many, many different things, I honestly like hearing different stuff just because it sort of wakes me up. It can also set you apart. Remember, it can set you apart in a bad way.
Yeah, I honestly do not put anything extra on my auditions unless it is specifically requested. Or if they say, you know, extras are fine, and I actually have like a genuinely fun like blooper or whatever, that is the only time I will do it. Now, the only thing though is like, for example, with one of your wand takes, you like had them do the woohoo or whatever in the middle of it. I will do that too sometimes, because like if it feels like it would fit the character, then yeah, why not? And it also doesn't like change what's being said. You're just adding more to it.
Yeah, don't change a line. That's a little weird. It's also like not what the director asked for. So if it happens to happen, if it happens to come out where you get additional material, go for it. I wouldn't like go out of your way and be like, hey, I see, like, maybe you're doing like an audiobook that like is already published, and it's like, hey, I saw these are the lines for this character. I chose, like, in addition, I read this paragraph from a different part in the story. That like, I probably wouldn't do that.
Paragraph.
Like, you know, well, whatever. I read this line that I think exemplifies the character or whatever. Like, yeah, that kind of shows you're familiar. It shows you did your studying, but like, it also, like, I don't know, something about that is a little off-putting. It's really touch and go. The short answer is no. Quite honestly, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
If you are like very sure, you know how the you know how the casting director thinks. Maybe you know them personally. Maybe you know them just from their work, and it's like, hey, this thing I said by accident is like very, very much in their style of humor, or it reminds me of something they would write. Oh my God, please don't do like oh God. So like, say you were doing an audition for Hamtaro Abridged, and like you referenced the dead joke in there. That would be like such a turnoff for me as a director. Not new, but what's the best way to overcome the issue of 100 people already auditioned? Why should I bother? They won't pick me anyway. That is not true.
The response to that is, if you don't audition, yeah, you're not going to get picked.
If you don't audition, you have 0% chance of getting picked. If you do audition, you have that small chance. You have pretty much the same chance that you would have had no matter when you auditioned, unless you were like one of the first 10. I think if you're like the first 10, you're the most noticeable. Past that point, there is pretty much no wrong time to audition. I've auditioned for plenty of projects. I found them, like, a friend was like, hey, last minute on this audition, you literally have an hour. I've done that a few times.
Like, the only time we're auditioning when there's over 100 people, it seems kind of pointless, is if you've missed deadline. That's the only time that you should feel like you shouldn't audition, when there's 100 people on it already, because that means it's over.
Thank you so much, anyone who's listened to this point in our podcast. We know it's long. We hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any comments or critique, we've never done this before, obviously, please put them in the comments. Give us any advice you have. Any questions that we can address in the future, we'd love to address any of that. We'd love to improve this any way we possibly could. So thank you so much for listening.
And yes, the next one will be shorter.
Oh, it'll be so much shorter, yeah.
Yeah, because like we mentioned, this is a really big topic, and it's our first episode, so we're trying things out. So don't worry.
Yeah, it'll be real different next time. Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. Thank you guys so much. You guys are the only reason we're able to do stuff like this. We hope to God that this kind of thing helps you. Thank you so much to all of our patrons, especially this month's top donors: The Luckiest Gravy,
Red Brawl,
Ricky D. Shields,
Mr. Dion,
The Squirrel Queen,
Caleb Hiles,
Salt Spawn,
my mom, Susan Sop,
Brandon Potts,
and our top donor, Nick.
Thank you guys all so much. And thank you anyone who considers supporting this and anything else we do. We love you guys very much. We hope you got something good out of this very long podcast. We hope it helped you, or it was interesting. And if it didn't, or if it wasn't, please again leave comments so we can improve. Thank you guys so much. I'm Jello,
And I'm William.
and next time it'll be shorter.
Toodles.